Yeah, so this is going to be a video that has nothing to do with games at all. This is entirely about movies. Specifically, it's about contemporary movies being gigantic piles of dog shit, and part of the reason for that. So I'm going to start off with this clip from Half in the Bag because it kind of frames the question. So here this is.
Where no one could get to you.
Oh yeah, and by the way, they're talking about the movie Edge of Tomorrow, and the context for this basically is that the movie has all kinds of crazy action sequences and complex action scenes, and they're wondering who directed it. And they find out that it was directed by the director of Swingers, just some indie movie with no action in it or any real logistics like that.
Who directed this?
Doug Liman,
Oh, yeah.
who started with Swingers.
Yeah.
Way back when. So I think he's
Holy
done some other
fuck.
action movies. I don't know what else he's done. I haven't seen any of them.
That's so bizarre.
Yeah, but he's a solid director for this type of movie.
I always wonder, like, you hear like these directors like that,
Yeah.
and then you see these movies, and they're just like these amazing action movies. Like, remember when Steven Spielberg was like the action director? Does somebody else come in and direct all these action scenes? Like, how does Doug Liman know how to put together a scene of such complexity with visual effects?
I don't know.
She smiled, baby.
I can't believe what an asshole you are.
No, baby, she smiled.
Okay, so and that's pretty much what this video is going to be about. I'm sure a lot of people realize this, but I think there are also a lot of people who don't realize this. The directors of contemporary movies don't matter anymore. It really doesn't matter because movies are made by armies now, and the days of the visionary auteur who is has some concept that has to be brought to the screen. That's completely gone. They're just a production line now, and so this is basically the way Hollywood works. They get some indie director, that they think is going to direct some decent dramatic scenes, or just the dialogue scenes between the main characters. And then they get 50,000 second unit and assistant directors to actually direct 90% of the movie. Because that's what movies are now. Movies are almost 90% dumb action sequences, 90% CG messes. It really it doesn't matter who directs a movie anymore. And just to illustrate this, look at this quote from the head of Marvel Studios. They're talking about the Captain Marvel movie and how they hired some no-name indie director to helm this $100 million+ movie. So we want filmmakers that can help us focus on and elevate the character journey so that it doesn't get lost amongst the spectacle. And there's going to be a lot of spectacle in the Captain Marvel film. We're pretty good at that at Marvel Studios and have an amazing team that can help with that. So, but when we're filling a director chair or chairs, we want people who are focused on the emotional journey, the humor, the surprising twists and turns of a singular character journey, which is what Captain Marvel is. So you see the strategy here. If there's some shitty dramatic scene in your comic book movie where characters pretend as if you give a crap about them at all, and they read their inane lines of dialogue to each other. Notice that they don't act; they read lines to each other. That's pretty much why they bring in these indie directors. They do that for those crappy little scenes that are 10% of the movie. And what's really comical about it is that all I see is comments on the internet, or all I hear is, people saying things like, oh yeah, well the movie was a piece of dog shit, but oh geez, I loved that action scene. Oh man, that person, that famous person or indie director sure is a great director, when they had nothing to do with the scene at all. Because the director that they put on the screen when they say directed by isn't the person who directs the movie anymore. And just to illustrate this, it's kind of funny just looking at this stuff. So, I know when they came out with that last Star Wars movie, The Force Awakens, and J.J. Abrams directed it. Everybody was crapping their pants, who liked that guy. When they found out that he wasn't going to direct the next Star Wars movie. Oh no, there's a different director. The sky's falling. It's going to ruin it. It's going to be inconsistent. It's going to be so different. But just look at this. Like if we look up Force Awakens, and this is what you really, if you want to find out whether a movie's going to be good, don't look at the director. Look at the full cast and crew, and look at the second unit and assistant directors, and then you'll find out who's actually making the movie. So here is where the real movie's made. Now look at this. You got J.J. Abrams, right, who's supposedly the director, but then look at this shit. You have 50,000 people here. Second unit directors, third assistant directors, key second assistant director. How many third assistant directors can you have? These are the people that actually directed the movie. J.J. Abrams did the shitty scenes between Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher that were poorly acted and framed, and all of these other people handled all the logistics, did all the action sequences, did everything that people actually liked in the movies. That's what's so comical about all this stuff. And when you start looking at these, directors, you start looking at the other movies they've done, you'll find out that every movie is being made by basically the same 20 people. All of these, assistant directors and second unit directors, they're doing all of the all these movies. Look at the credits. Oh, gee, Harry Potter and James Bond and Star Wars, they're all fucking directed by the same person. You wonder why all these movies are the same? Because the same people behind the scenes are pulling the strings. Oh, here we go. Star Wars, The Edge of Tomorrow. There we go, Edge of Tomorrow. What a shocker. The Hobbit. What do we got here? Oh, Star Wars, Star Trek. It's all the same people. Oh, gee, a second unit director did both Force Awakens and Rogue One and Doctor Strange and James Bond. You see how comical all this is? People actually think that the director of movies matters. They actually think that it has any difference. When what's really going on is this. These suits, who fund all of these movies, they're not going to take a chance when they're putting up $200 million plus and then $300 million worth of advertising budget on a movie. It has to make $1 billion. They're not screwing around. So when they pick some indie director who has only made a $5,000 a film before doing Star Wars 18, they're not going to actually let this person do everything that matters. They're going to have them direct a handful of crappy dialogue scenes, and then all of these nameless second unit and assistant directors are going to, to sneak into the room and actually do all the real work. That's how movies are made now. And so, I mean, it's just kind of comical, I mean, and then if we look at so people were talking about that new Star Wars movie coming out, Last Jedi, right? So let's look at Last Jedi. And let's go to the full cast and crew, and let's look at assistant directors. Oh, gee, what a shocker. Here we go again. 50,000 people are the second unit directors. Let's look at some of these second unit directors. Let's see what else they've done. Let's see if we find anybody here who, rings a bell. Gee, Guardians of the Galaxy, Harry Potter, The Avengers 2, Age of Ultron. See, it's all the same people. All of these movies are actually made by the same people. That's what's so funny. Gee, here we go again. Guardians of the Galaxy, The Avengers, Harry Potter, Rogue One. It's all the same people. So if you actually think that the director of movies matters, you're an idiot, because it doesn't. There is a huge machine behind all of this stuff. They have their 20-plus reliable shill assistant and second unit directors. They do all the work. They actually make the movies. And let's just contrast this. So this is the situation that we have today. This is how movies are made now. But let's look at, say, like a real movie, like a movie that's actually good, like such as Notorious with Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman. So let's look at the full cast and crew here. Let's look at the, oh, this movie had one second unit director. One second unit director. You know why? Because you know what a second unit director was supposed to be in the era where movies were actually good? A second unit director did pickup shots. They did establishing exterior shots. So if you had a movie that had some scene where it takes place in a cafe, a second unit director would go in and get some, slice of life footage of people walking around outside the cafe. Nothing important. In fact, it was unusual, if not unheard of, for second unit directors to even direct scenes with the leads of movies in them. They didn't even deal with the lead actors of a movie. And now, if you look at this stuff, the second unit and assistant directors are doing everything. They're filming more than the quote-unquote main director of a movie. So that just basically is a little look into that. I know it's old news for a lot of people, but it's just something that I kind of wanted to talk about because I just keep hearing this stuff about you people talking about, oh my God, so-and-so is directing the next Thor movie, or so-and-so is directing the next Star Wars movie. It doesn't matter. They don't do anything. They do nothing. They're just names that they put up there for fanboys to latch onto, but it makes no difference. And that is why the contemporary movie is a gargantuan pile of shit, and why all of these movies are the same, because they're all made by the same people. There is no variety here. It's all the same inbred, boring garbage. And so, so that is, the answer to the question. That is how the director of Swingers, makes The Edge of Tomorrow, and how some dude who directed an episode of Breaking Bad directed the next Star Wars movie, because it doesn't matter. They aren't actually what people think of traditionally as the director anymore. That era is just gone. It's unfortunate, but that's pretty much what we have here. So if you weren't aware of this and you're checking out a new movie, take a look. Take a look at the actual credits. See who were the assistant and second and third unit directors in the movie, and you'll find out who actually made it.